everybody, welcome back to the Daily Mass Review channel. I haven't been posting on here a lot because, new baby and all that, trying to figure out how to balance everything. But new baby's great. Joseph, he's doing swell. Yeah, things have been good. The reason I'm making this video is because recently there's been some news that's been breaking in the Archdiocese about a school board trustee meeting, basically where the school board trustees, they met to talk about one person in particular. That person was a trustee who had said something about the teaching of the Catholic Church on same-sex attraction, and the trustee, and that trustee basically was written up, and they were going to try and kick him out, not by putting someone else in office because it is an elected position. They wanted to see if they could find somewhere in the bylaws that they could get rid of him, and they could not. And so the school board basically resolved the matter, but now the matter has been brought up again by the same teacher who made the original complaint that he was homophobic and all these things, even after it's been proved that he wasn't. And the homophobic things that he was supposed to have said was basically he was quoting from the catechism. And when a person came in from the Archdiocese to try and prove that the comments from the catechism that he quoted weren't homophobic, they wouldn't even let them talk. They thought that the catechism was a hateful document, and that by saying it they would marginalize or oppress this group of students. Being students who are in the LGBTP plus community that would feel marginalized because of whatever comments. Like they're gonna watch a 7-hour trustee meeting. But anyway, I parsed through it. I have taken an excerpt from the meeting. I have only taken the audio. I will put subtitles at the bottom so you can see exactly what's being said. Because I don't want to run into any privacy concerns. Basically, I don't want them to be able to take down the video for me violating one of YouTube's code of conduct or something, so that this gets seen. But I think that this is something that needs to be talked about because it's really problematic if our Catholic school board doesn't think the catechism should be taught in the schools because it's hateful and marginalizes people who have same-sex attractions. It's really messed up that that's something that the school board agrees with and thinks is okay to produce in our schools. So I'm going to play the audio clip and then I'll talk a little bit afterwards. And I actually have a follow-up video that I did with a speaker from the States that I will be posting later this week before Christmas.
Christopher, are you there? There you
I
are.
am.
And I apologize for the wait, Christopher. Go ahead. You have 3 minutes.
Okay. So I would like to thank the Toronto Catholic District School Board for giving me the opportunity to speak this evening. A false narrative has been put forth regarding the nature of comments made by a certain trustee in November of 2019. It was intended to portray him as a homophobic bigot who is guilty of creating an unsafe environment for LGBTQ students. This portrayal of him and his comments could not be farther from the truth. His statements have been grossly misrepresented and misunderstood. First, it was never the trustee's intention to equate the new terms added to the Code of Conduct with bestiality, pedophilia, cannibalism, etc. He has denied repeatedly the assertion that his aim was to draw those comparisons. The concern he expressed was losing our denominational rights to stay true to our faith. If we remove Catholic teaching as a baseline for what we will accept in our Catholic schools, what else might take its place? And this is a legitimate question. But these facts have already been established by the board when this trustee was cleared of all wrongdoing in a special meeting in August of this year. At that meeting, the conclusion was reached that he did not breach the Code of Conduct. If this matter has already been investigated and resolved, it is completely inappropriate to reopen it again because certain people did not like the result. There was much opposition to the changes in the board's Code of Conduct last year. Both sides had the opportunity to say their piece, and the board made its decision. Many who opposed the changes were unhappy with the result, but we accepted it and moved on. Unfortunately, those who have brought us back here tonight do not have the same attitude. The trustee in question has been the victim of a relentless campaign that has continued for over a year now to publicly smear his name and discredit him in the press, on social media, and through online petitions calling for his condemnation. The actions taken against him by certain individuals have risen to the level of harassment and even cyberbullying through incessant social media posts meant to defame him and discredit his good name. I would even venture to say that the majority of the controversy came not from the trustees' statements themselves, but from those who have reframed his comments to mean something they did not imply. They have spread this false narrative far and wide throughout the TCDSB in an attempt to incite people to rise up and call for his removal. And here we are a year later because they cannot accept that he still has his position on the board. Tonight's meeting is more about punishing a trustee than it is about improving our schools. It is about a vindictive agenda that will not tolerate anyone who puts forth resistance to what they want to achieve. It should be the voters who will decide if the trustee deserves another term, not special interest groups. This matter was investigated and settled months ago. It's time to move on and get back to the business of educating our children in the Catholic tradition. Thank you.
Thank you, Christopher.
I am a parishioner at St. Boniface in Scarborough. I am active in the Catholic community here in Toronto and have relatives who are employees at the Toronto Catholic District School Board. Needless to say, I have a strong stake in what happens in our Catholic schools. I just want to express agreement with the statements expressed by those who have rightly pointed out the misrepresentation of the arguments presented by one trustee at the November 11 meeting. I understand that this is an issue that can make a lot of people very emotional, but we should not allow that to cloud our judgment and cause us to assume malice where malice is not intended. In addition to what has already been said, I want to highlight the fact that what is at stake here is the fidelity of the Catholic School Board to Catholic teaching, which we hold to be based on revelation from God. The statements that have been made about morality of homosexual acts is nothing more than mirroring of Catholic teachings found in the Catechism of the Catholic Church. Paragraph 2357 of the Catechism is quite clear on the matter, and I would like to quote the relevant section. Quote, homosexuality refers to relations between men or between women who experience an exclusive or predominant sexual attraction towards persons of the same sex. It has taken a great variety of forms throughout the centuries and in different cultures. Its psychological genesis remains largely unexplained, basing itself on sacred scripture, which presents homosexual acts as acts of rape.
Point of order. One second. One second. Trustee Di Pasquale, go ahead. Point of order. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just thinking, I believe that the delegates' comments are treading in dangerous waters, perhaps, putting down a marginalized and vulnerable community at our board.
Yeah, I'm glad.
Point of order, Mr. Chair.
1 second. I have to deal with one first. I think you're right, and I must warn the delegate that some of the language I feel is not proper, and I think so do some trustees. So let's. What point of order, Trustee Crawford?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. The delegate is quoting from the Catechism of the Catholic Church.
Okay.
Let that sink in, please.
Okay.
Before you make your ruling, I would appreciate that.
Yeah. I didn't make a ruling, but I did agree with the previous speaker. Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Trustee Rizzo, your hand, please, if you want to speak.
I don't want to speak. I want a point of order.
Oh, point of order. Well, it's the same thing. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I want to make sure that it is understood.
Yeah, go ahead.
Mr. Chair, anybody making a comment about anybody in our community in a public funding body is not acceptable in this forum. Has nothing to do with it.
Correct. Thank you. So I'm going to, the delegate has heard what some trustees have concerns. Would you like to continue and be aware of what was said, if you can?
Right. Well, all I will say is I will refrain from quoting the remainder of the catechism, but it is paragraph 2357 for anybody who would like to see the text in full. I wanted to express the fact that it would be very difficult to castigate the words that have been used in the November 11 meeting without also indirectly castigating the words of the catechism itself. Surely we would not ban the teaching of the catechism simply because its statements do not reflect secular notions of gender identity and social justice. Because if we were to do that, then we would be defeating the very purpose of even having a Catholic school board. In order for our schools to be authentically Catholic, they would have to accurately mirror what the Catholic faith teaches. I hope that in dealing with this matter, this case will be handled with the integrity of Catholic teaching in view. That is all I have to say.
Thank you very much. I have no questions, so can somebody move something, please? Trustee Crawford, what are you moving? Receipt. Seconder? Trustee Tanawan? On the motion of receipt, Martino in favor. Trustee Kennedy?
Opposed.
Opposed. Trustee Crawford?
In favor.
In favor. Trustee D'Amico? Not here. Trustee Di Domenico?
Opposed.
Opposed. Trustee DeGiorgio? In favor. Student Trustee Babayan? In favor. Trustee Di Pasquale? Opposed. Trustee Delgran? Not voting. Trustee LaPredi, you're back? How do you vote? Opposed. Trustee Lubinsky?
In favor.
In favor. Trustee Rizzo?
Opposed.
Opposed. Trustee Tanawan? In favor, right? Okay. Madam Secretary? Lost on the time.
Well, there you have it, everybody. It lost in a tie. Cardinal Collins wrote a letter responding to this, and also commending Trustee Crawford for standing up for the catechism. They were the only trustee who stood up for the catechism. At the end, they voted just on receiving it. So some trustees didn't think that it should even be received into the written record, whereas Chris, who came earlier, said basically the same thing, didn't quote from the catechism, will receive 8-0. In fact, one of the trustees who was absent at Chris's, LaPredi, came back just to vote so that it would lose in a tie. They weren't even in the meeting at the time. And then they came back whenever they heard what was going on. I guess they were in another room or something, just so they could vote to deny its receipt. Which means that this was never even brought up again later in the meeting, which is unfortunate. Because it's really disturbing that we, like, as the speaker says at the end, right, like, surely we're not going to ban the teaching of the catechism in Catholic schools, because, well, then they would just cease to be Catholic, and then what's the point of that? We're not really a Catholic school board anymore, which is 100% true. And what, Catholics have been saying, youth ministers, teachers, all these people who are in the Catholic school board have been saying with the school board for years now, decades even, about the way the school board is trending, and people aren't listening, right? People aren't listening to what they're saying, people aren't listening with their votes. The fact that these trustees are elected is already part of the problem, right? Anyway, I think this is pretty big news, and should be talked about. And the issue of same-sex attraction doesn't get talked enough. But I'm not going to talk too much about the political implications of it in the video with Manny. We're going to talk about same-sex attraction specifically. It's a really great video. I'm still in the process of editing, but it was phenomenal. And Manny's such a great guy. I love talking to him, so definitely check that out. And definitely check out the letter from the Cardinal, because it's got a degree of sass for the people in this meeting who were beating up on the catechism. That is, very nice. Not that I would ever encourage that kind of thing. Yeah, so, if you have thoughts about this, if you disagree, if you want to say something, that's what the comment section is for. You can use that, type things in there. I'll get a notification, I'll see it, I'll respond. That's how it works. But yeah, stay tuned for the next video. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.